Hey.
Hey. Muting myself.
How are you, Cantor?
All right. I'm excited.
Me too.
I have to remember to record.
Hi.
Record.
Oh, it's still light there. It's funny.
Yeah.
Just
I
got
don't know, is this right? Can you hear me?
Hi, Joy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Joy. I'm gonna mute you at some point.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Joy, I can hear you.
Say that again.
I can hear you.
All right. I can barely hear you.
Oh, you know why?
I can barely hear you, Liz.
Minor detail, my mic wasn't in. Is this better?
That's better.
Good.
That's better.
Great. Thank you.
How are you?
I am okay, Joy. How are you?
Good. I'm still in Wisconsin. I've been up here in Eagle River, dying to go visit Ramah, but no one's there. So here I am. Be here for
Nice.
about another 10 days or so. It's really been lovely. Yeah.
Oh,
Can't
good. Are you
suffer when you're
with kids
looking
and
out at a beautiful-
grandkids?
Yeah, I'm with Penny and Brett and Zach. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So we are suffering just riding on boats and water skiing and all that.
You know,
How's Steve?
he is doing okay. Thanks.
I'm
He's doing
glad.
okay. Yeah. Keeping all of us
Joni
afloat.
is okay through these?
I'm sorry?
Joni is okay?
Yes,
His
well,
mommy?
maybe we should do a phone call. But she's doing all right. Yeah. She actually had COVID.
I won't bother you anymore.
That's okay. Yeah. No, it's good to see you and nice to connect. Hi, Don.
I'm
Hi,
here.
Liz. How are
I'm
you?
anxious to hear what's gonna happen tonight.
I think. Going to mute.
I never know how to get other.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
I thought maybe just before everybody else shows up, maybe we can just touch base for 1 second.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you so much for
Welcome, everyone. That was one of Joey's newer pieces, right? Ya'ala Kolenu, perfect for the high holidays. So glad to see all of you here. Let's get started. First, I would like to thank, we had an anonymous donor that helped make this evening possible. So thank you to our donor for this evening. Let me introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anshe Elizabeth Berke, and I'm privileged to be part of the clergy team at Anshe Emet Synagogue. And now I want to have the privilege of introducing our wonderful guest, Joey Weisenberg. Musician, composer, and teacher, Joey is the founder and co-director of Hadar's Rising Song Institute, which aims to cultivate the grassroots musical spiritual creativity of the Jewish people. He's the author of the Torah of Music, visual aid, the 2017 winner of the National Jewish Book Award, and Building Singing Communities, which is somewhere buried in a pile in my home right now. And he has released 7 albums with the Hadar Ensemble, most recently Nigunim, Volume 7, Songs of Ascent, which was just last year. So welcome. So glad you all are here, and welcome, Joey.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to begin, if you don't mind, just sort of like a larger circle question. Currently, we're in a year of looking inward in our musical life at the synagogue, and looking outward at best practices in other communities and congregations. As a part of our survey, your community, Hadar, and the Rising Song Institute was mentioned the most frequently as a moving prayer experience. And for those who aren't familiar, could you please explain what going to a service you lead is like, and also share how you came to that model? Was there an aha moment for you when you realized that was how you wanted the physical space set up? This was the modality of the music. How did you create that approach?
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much, Anshe Berke. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this. I had a chance to be in your shul a year or two ago when I visited Mishkan, and I'm really looking forward to tonight, just to getting to meet more of you. And you know, it's first of all, just watching that video made me a little nostalgic because I really miss the opportunity to make music with real people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to have that direct, immediate connection that you only get when you're very close together. You know, that was recorded a year or two ago before COVID hit, when we could still be in close quarters singing. And when you're close together like that, like we were in that video, you can feel the power and the nuance of each other's music. It's not just their music, but, you know, when we sing, we're like humming with our prayers. You know, they're like the bubbling up. The prayer is the bubbling up of the deepest emotions and the deepest feelings, be them sad bits of tears and also our greatest moments of joy, you know. And so you have to be close together in some ways to feel the power of each other. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a strange thing to talk about during COVID. In some ways, COVID has made the old paradigm of the shul that has people sitting in all different areas of the shul even more extreme. Right. And because now we're not even in the same building anymore. You know, it makes the old shul look very, very intimate. But I will say that the basic premise of the kind of davening that I like to lead, let's say outside of COVID, is one in which people are physically pretty close together, and that they're very tuned into what each other are doing, and they're swept away with the power of each other's presence and voice. Okay, and it brings people out of the passivity So in a sense, we don't want to just go to watch the show. We want to go to be a part of something and to let our own hearts get into it and to let our voices emerge. And when I know for a fact that I am not really capable of leading effectively from a bima, from the stage in the front of the room, just me personally. I lead much better from the middle of the room with people gathered all around me. And this is not something I invented. This is old Jewish practice. This is Jewish practice from before the age of, from before the last 80 years. In about 100 years ago and older, almost all synagogues were oriented very close together with always the amud, the person who was leading the Baal Tefillah or the cantor or the Shliach Tzibur was in the middle of the room.
Right.
And people were gathered close around. So it's really not, it's not a new innovative concept. It's just something that Jews have been doing forever. And when I'm in the middle of the room and I have the people around me, I can feel their power and I can feel their prayer. And I found almost that it doesn't even matter if I'm there, because you could switch me out with somebody else. And once we're all together, we make something powerful no matter what. Okay, and so this is essentially what Ya'alek Kolenu, the song that we just sang, is all about. It's if all of these things, Ya'alek Kolenu, Tachanunenu, Shabbatenu, it's all in the plural. It's not just my prayer, it's all of our prayers. And so we need to gather them up and let them rise.
It's true. I mean, listening to that, especially at the end, it's like you take a bath in the sound. It's just a soundscape that you can lose yourself in. And I've been really appreciating that when I've been listening to more of your music over the last few days, especially just getting in the mood for this in the right frame of mind. And I really appreciate that about the layers that you create. It was interesting. I listened to the conversation you had with Mati Lazar, and you seem to differentiate yourself from choral singing. And I know that it's definitely different from the choral frontal singing that he does with Zamir. But I hear your singing and your group in the ensemble very much as a choral ensemble. Oh
yeah, it's not that much different. The basic premise is you get people together and you listen to each other. But the difference is that in a community, you're not always trying to sound good. It doesn't always sound good, and you know, this is one of my favorite discovery as a prayer leader was when I first got up about 13 years ago to lead High Holidays, which is coming up, and I don't know, in your shul, do you do the duchening?
We don't. I have led it before, but not
the duchening is when all of the Kohanim go up and they do their special Spach thing, and they're hiding under the talus, and you say Yivarechecha, and all the Kohanim go Yivarechecha.
It's very true.
They're totally, and everybody's in a different key. And I realized at that moment, I was like, oh, that's why it was the Leviim who did the singing in the temple, the Levites. The Kohanim are kind of symbolize the community. They're kind of like the shofar. They're not designed to sound good. They're just designed to sound real, you know? And I love the realness, the rawness, the imperfection of that kind of communal singing. I also really love a beautiful chord that's in tune.
Yeah.
I like them both, but it's a yes and and we can discuss that a little bit more today, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when I hear your ensemble, it always is beautifully and in tune. So I'm
not opposed to being in tune.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So let's talk about sort of music as a comfort, especially at this time. What's inspiring you? I don't know, where are you finding yourself gravitating either with your own compositions or, you know, what texts are speaking to you, especially related to the upcoming high holidays?
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting into the high holidays. I tend to go in sort of into a little bit, I'm always a bit of a melancholy person, especially when I'm not live on screen. I'm a bit of an introvert, and I have a little bit of a level of sadness which continues throughout me almost all the time, and many of us have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that in the month before the high holidays, I tend to tune into that rather seriously, and I kind of go in a trajectory that I never know what's going to happen. I should know it by now, but it always sneaks up on me that I find myself going into a little bit downwards, and then by the time the high holidays come, I get launched back up again. And the way I like to think about that is the way that the sages thought about it when they described the keshet, the bow, and you have to pull back on the bowstring like this, and you pull back, and it goes down and down, and then when you release, then it flies. And they call that a yirida letzorech aliyah, a descent for the sake of an ascent. So you have to, like taking a step backwards with the hope of taking 2 steps forwards, or in this case, it's also compared to a pit, like a well that you would dig. In Hebrew, they call it a be'er, which is just like the word pit, which like Joseph was dropped into, which is a bore. And you descend and you descend, and eventually at the bottom, you get to the bottom and you find a little bit of water, and then you know that you're onto a well. Right? And that water is called the mayim chayim, the water of life, and which in the Jewish tradition, mayim chayim is always the wisdom of Torah. Okay, so as you have to dig down to find the mayim chayim, the waters of life.
Right.
Okay? And so this is my process. Looks like that. I dig down and I go into myself like that, and I get sad, and I start to speak in music when I get sad sometimes. So for example, if you don't mind, can I just play you a little something?
Please.
Is that okay with all of you? Actually, would you mind just taking the spotlight off of me so I can see some people's faces?
Sure.
Because it's important. I need to see people. So say that I'm the word for going down into down deep is mimamakim, and we have in the high holidays we have these words shir hamalot, mimamakim kraticha. So mimamakim, kerasicha Hashem, mimamakim, kerasicha Hashem. Right, so it's not a happy song. It's not like let's go dance and have fun. It's like these are songs that go deep into the being, right? Would you actually just sing it with me a little bit? Mimamaki. I know I can't actually hear you all, but if you can just do your best to sing, and I'll hear it kind of cosmically, if you don't mind. Okay. Mimamaki, kerasicha Hashem, mimamakim, kerasicha Hashem, Adonai Shema, Shema Bekoli, Adonai Shema, Shema Bekoli, Tiririna Irona I na ro 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 ro. I na na iri na ro ro. O iro. Diri na ro ro. So for me, that's the path as I sing slow songs that are sad. Okay, and this is an important part of the Jewish tradition. Are these songs? They're not. It's important to have the songs of sadness, and they pave the way for the songs of joy. Right. So that's like you might have heard in a different Shir Hamalot when it talks about. We go Shir Hamalot B'Shuv Adonai Et Shivatzi in the Birkat Hamazon, right? And then it goes Hazorim Bedima Berina Yiktzoru, which means those who sow in tears with song they shall reap, right? Which you've heard of the famous line, those who sow in tears will reap in joy. And the word for joy is actually the same word for music, for song. It's like their sages and the writers of the language couldn't, Rina means joyous song. They couldn't even imagine having a separation between those words. They just made them the same. Okay, and so when you sow in tears, when you go into the place of tears, then you emerge eventually with song. Right, and so on the high holidays, that's why they say they call the Jewish people the broken-hearted people. They say Rachamana, God, have pity on your Am Tevurei Lev, your broken-hearted people, and that's thought to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. Because, even though it's not always fun to be broken-hearted. It's supposed to be a place where you can feel both the extreme sadness and the extreme joy, right? And so it's considered a good thing because you're able to feel and actually notice the world, and that's a sort of spiritual space to be in. So.
Beautiful, thank you. I in concert with that, and I think about the Jewish New Year kind of as a roller coaster ride. And I definitely have that feeling, especially at Tisha B'Av, that we're in the depths of something. And then this journey from Tisha B'Av through our Haftarot of comfort, is sort of like that slow chick, 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 up to that high point in the roller coaster before you go on that crazy ride that you're in for.
Right.
Yeah.
And then by the time that the high holidays comes around, there's still sad music in the high holidays. But, when we're singing, we tend, especially by Yom Kippur, everybody is not eating and we're all dancing the whole time. It's like, it says Yom didin da da rimba idim bararam I lo idilla da da lo 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 I did da dam dim da I lilla la da lo ididam I lo bararam bararam ba I la di da la lo I lo 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 di da la la di yam bam bi da dam bam bam I la di da da la da la lo 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 I di la lo 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 yam bam bi da dam oh. Right, and you can already see, like, when I start to sing that kind of song, I'm starting to emerge from my place of quietness and introspection. I'm looking at the camera instead of kind of like staring into my own abyss. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what we're kind of all trying to do that in our own ways. I do it with music, but we all do it in our own ways, which is navigate the path from our own introverted place to the connection with the community. And I think that's what we're trying to remind ourselves with these days. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there is like a cracking open that happens by Yom Kippur that does bring us to a different elevated place. I just want to take a step back because you broke into a nigun.
yeah.
So if we could just for a moment talk about nigun versus, texted music that you create. What's your approach? And I guess what inspires you for nigun as opposed to finding a tune for a liturgical piece?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the teaching. I grew up in Milwaukee, not far from you all, and I first learned about nigunim, in Yiddish nigunim, from the Twersky family, up in Milwaukee. My grandfather was a sort of quasi chassid of theirs, and I used to go out whenever I could to hear them sing, and it's just so powerful to sit at their table and soak in these melodies that have no words, right? And the basic concept of the nigun, nigun is an ancient concept. I mean, David the king was known as somebody who was Yodea Nigun, and Serach Bat Asher, who was hundreds of years, the daughter of one of the 12 tribes, the daughter of Asher, whose name was Serach, was known also as Yodaat Nigun. She even played the harp, according to the Midrash, that David might have played later. So it's an old concept. Nigun was something that happened on the harp. It was wordless. It just was this beautiful, soothing music of the spirit, right? And the Hasidic world really took off with that. They loved to just sing pure melodies. And basically the concept of a nigun is that it doesn't literally mean anything. It's this ayayay, tididai, oy vavoy, yababam, yababimbam, whatever you say is fine. Tididai na yohomahimani na 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 no mayamam. It doesn't matter what you say. It's what it does is it's both baby talk, because on the one hand it's like it's below the intellectual level, so you don't even have to get into like the thinking world. It's just below that. And then on the other hand, it's supposed to transcend the intellectual level,
right?
Okay, when words cannot capture what you're trying to express, the nigun comes in. The wordless melody just soars straight up to the heavens. Okay, and they even say there are a number of teachers in the Middle Ages who said that the native language, the Mama Lashon of the soul, of the neshama, is music. And so when our neshamas, when our souls hear music, they're like, oh, I'm back in my heavenly abode, where Nice. And but then they come down into the world and they have to translate those thoughts into language like Hebrew or English or Yiddish or whatever, Arabic, okay, and Russian. But at its core, it's all just a translation from music. Is kind of the old Jewish idea there, mystical thinking, right? And so we sing with words, and eventually the words give away. They give way, and we can't actually express anymore what we need to. So you might start with words. It might be Yaleh Tachanu Neinu Me'erev, right, which means something. Like it means let our supplications, our prayers go up. But eventually you just go da da da, and the music itself is taking you up, right? And it's what it's designed for. So I don't know, in terms of my personal process with it, sometimes I start with words and sometimes I start with music. And in the very best situations, they both come together out of nowhere at the same time. I've been able to write some songs spontaneously where literally the words and the music arrive at the same time. Most of the time, I start with music and then the words find their way. And there's sometimes when I'm saying the words over and over again until a melody appears. But, you know, in practice, the idea is that eventually the words are not needed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that not everybody subscribes to, you know, but that's the idea. The idea is words can't express everything. And I'll say, just in defense of words, that the poetry and the prayers of our tradition are some of the most beautiful things in the world. And even those can't always say what they need to say.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, beautiful.
Maybe now's a good time to study a little bit.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So would you mind putting into the chat the link to that document?
I am just going to grab that.
Thank you all so much.
Oh, did we lose him? Oh no, Joey, I think, are you there? There you are.
Okay, great.
Great. I just put the link in the chat, everyone, for a wonderful set of texts. Joey, do you want to enter us into
Here's what we'll do. If you don't mind, first, would you just go to the chat box, and will you just make sure that you can click on the link and get the document, okay? And then spend 3 minutes just looking it over as if you're cramming for a college test. I just want you to just see the overview of what's in there, okay? And Cantor, if it's possible for you to turn the spotlight so that I can see, so that we can see the people, that'd be great.
I have it in gallery view currently. Do you want me to? I'm sorry. Do you want?
I'm just seeing you the whole time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just fine. I think you might have, but it's okay. No matter, it's fine either way.
Either way, I'm going to spotlight you. There you go.
Okay, great. So are people able to open the document? Maybe give a thumbs up if yes.
I see some thumbs up. Other thumbs up. I see more thumbs up. Excellent.
Okay, great. Some thumbs down.
Emily, did you get the document open? Thumbs up with Emily. Rachel Lessem, do you get the document open?
Okay,
thumbs
great.
up from Rachel. Good.
Good enough. Okay, so yeah, just have a look through it for a second, just so you can see what's there. We're not going to be looking at everything.
If I do this, is that better? Did your view change?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Perfect. Good. It's nice to see, by the way, some of you all, some familiar faces and some friends. And thank you for coming. Okay, great. So now we're going to, for about 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to separate into a breakout room where you, if you're able to, if you're sitting there watching and your screens are off, and if you wouldn't mind turning your screens on, if you're able to, and Cantor will break us into groups of 3 or 4, and what I want you to do is just to pick one text, not the whole thing, just one text, okay? And just one thing that looked interesting to you upon your skim, okay? And then just get to know that as a group. Just say, what's it about? And what are you noticing about it? And you can say hi to each other real quick, but try to stay on the, try to learn what it's about. And then you'll report back when we come back together.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
so
about to hit, please accept the invitation to the breakout rooms. I'm opening them all. It's happening.
Great.
Slowly, but
Yeah,
it's
just,
happening.
y'all remember, if you want to get into the breakout rooms, you probably have to click accept somewhere.
Yes. My mom hasn't joined. Mom, join your breakout room. There's very interesting people in there.
Also, if you're talking, you have to unmute.
Yeah, I was trying the space bar. I was all alone.
Oh,
in
you
my
were?
breakout room. Yes, nobody was there.
Let me find your, that's so strange. Oh no, I
You know
see.
what, for the rest of us, why don't we just stay here and we'll have a group here?
Okay.
So that, because there'll probably be people coming in. Let's just make it here.
Great. Yeah, I see other people. I'm gonna move. Just trying to move some people around because I see. There we go. Just trying to give some more room, some critical mass.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, sure. Hopefully they'll. All right, well.
Marcy, is one of these texts something you'd be interested in looking at?
Yes.
Really pick it at random if you want to, but
How about, I mean, they all look interesting. I thought the one that caught my attention was the harp.
yeah.
I don't know why. I have no rational explanation.
Oh, great. Which one?
The harp?
The last section. Okay,
Yes, the fourth section.
great. Yeah, so there's 3 things there. Do you want to look at one of them? Maybe
Yeah.
my very favorite one is the last one, the joining together.
Joining together, singer makes the song.
Yeah, the second singer.
Second singer makes the song. Okay.
Hey, you want to read it out loud?
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll do the English.
Perfect.
Sometimes when a person sings, he cannot raise his voice. But when someone comes to help and sings strongly, this in turn gives the first person the ability to raise his own voice to match. This is of the secret significance of uniting soul to soul.
Yeah.
Wow. That's true, isn't it? So true.
How do you relate to this?
Well, when I'm davening, sometimes my voice, I daven, I sing, and it just somehow my voice resonates more in shul than it does anywhere else, and I have no explanation for it. It just, there's something inside that vibrates. Yeah.
You feel like in that space in particular of the sanctuary?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The energy that happens between two people or a group of people. And, I'm not a great musician. And it's not about me so much, but I'm taking violin, and I'm a beginning violinist, but when I play with my instructor, who's marvelous, she gives me that energy to do better, to be better.
That's so nice. Yeah. How do you relate to this, Cantor?
Please call me Liz. No, it's true. There's something about, I think about times in particular when I'm leading and I'm emotional, and it becomes very hard. I don't know if this has happened to you at times, but when you're crying, it's very hard to actually sing. But I find I draw from the strength of those in the room with me, or even now if it's like we're truly on a Zoom morning minion or something, just knowing that those souls are there with me can sort of help give me the strength to sing through, if that makes sense. So it's something about I've always loved, choral music. When I was in high school, I had to choose between, I was a percussionist and I was, in choir, and there was a certain point where they were meeting at the same time, and I went with choir, right? For me, it's always much more satisfying to sing in groups. So it's something about being together and creating the song together. It's that just gives me strength and direction and courage. Yeah.
Michael, and anybody else who might be watching, we're looking at on page 7 of the packet, in case you're wanting to join us. Yeah. Of uniting soul to soul. It's the it says in the Hebrew, it's the itavkut rucha berucha, the clinging together of the dvekus quality, of one ruach as it encounters another ruach.
Mm-hmm.
It's poignant. I know some of these people. Jane, where are you? Say something.
It's okay.
But
watch our chevruta.
but it's what you were saying at the beginning, Joey. I miss shul. I feel like a part of my I don't know, my heart, my soul, whatever you want to call it, is missing. It's just so hard right now. It's enough of this Zooming. It's starting to happen, I know, slowly, but it's been really a hole in everything, and putting your voices with other people to sing, even on Shabbat or Minyan. It's been hard.
Yeah.
So Liz, now would be a good time, I think, to send out a message that we're all going to come back together and close down the rooms.
I'll hit close out rooms. It gives them 60 seconds to, to finish up.
We'll have a little time for people to report.
Yeah.
Marcy, thank you for talking about that.
Thank you, Joey.
Yeah, thank you, Marcy. Always nice to study with you.
I got recruited, I think. Volunteered.
Appreciate it. You're on a journey. I appreciate you helping us, be a part of your journey.
It wouldn't be the same without you, Liz. Absolutely.
Oh, keep going. It's good.
Oh, and I don't know the whole tune yet. I don't, like you write about in building singing communities, right? You have to hear it repeatedly to own it. Like, I don't feel like I own it quite yet.
Hundreds of times.
Yes. Yes. So that's a question I had. I don't know as people are joining. I don't know if I did, but like, how do you keep all the nigunim straight, right? Sometimes I start one and I'm like, wait, I didn't mean to start that one. Now I'm singing this other one. Like, how you have like such an internal library of nigunim. How do you remember them all, keep them all straight?
First of all, lots of times I don't.
That's good to know. gives me comfort.
Yeah, and there's so many melodies that I've learned that I don't have a handle on right this second. And that's okay. But it's also just part of what you do. My path as a musician has been very much an oral tradition.
Right.
I mean, I read music and I do legitimate music like that, but my passion has always been for learning things by ear. And I used to be in jazz band, and speaking of high school, and I couldn't read music yet, so I would say, okay, you guys just play it real quick. And then the second time around, I could play the song.
Amazing. It's amazing.
But it's like, that was just something that it was a crutch that I used so that I didn't have to learn how to read. But, it's not always possible to remember something the next day. So some people can pick up a melody immediately, but they forget it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And other people, after you sing it 100 times, then it starts to stay in your heart and your kishkas. It gets caught in there and it becomes part of you. So, okay, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to study for a few minutes. And would you mind now, would one group report, okay, and just say, what was the text that you learned and what did you notice about it? And if somebody could raise their hands to get us started. Is that Barry? Was that a hand?
Yeah, Barry.
So we were talking about the lift of a nagun.
Great.
And I actually gave a lot of my thoughts going back to my childhood, where my rabbi was a Hasidic rabbi from Romania. And he just loved to throw nagun into every service. And after the first couple of minutes, the whole congregation was rocking and so spiritually moved and uplifted. And I think there was a reason why the Hasidim grabbed onto nagun, because the Hasidic movement really was a movement for the average man that may not even know how to read Hebrew. And you don't need to know how to read in order to be captivated by the music. So it really is the music of the average neshama, I think. So. And everybody else in our group also loved the nagun and how spiritually moving it could be.
That's beautiful. Did any other groups have a look at one of these texts in this first section?
We actually looked at the nagun as well, and we just to build on what was already being said, the whole notion of the Hebrew gap is really a critical issue. In fact, many people are assimilated or haven't been raised Jewish or are intermarried. And so what the nagun enables people to do, it bridges the Hebrew gap, it equalizes the service, makes it more accessible so that everybody can have access to that spiritual lift. You're not precluded because of how much Hebrew you have to bring to the table. So it's a much more inclusive structurally.
Yeah, that's beautiful what you're saying, both of you. Thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense to me, what you're saying, Lindy, right? I got it right. you know, I like how you say it equalizes, because there are plenty of people who know an awful lot of Torah and a lot of Hebrew, but they can't sing a niggin. Right? And there's and there's plenty of people who don't know any Hebrew who can sing a niggin. And there's also plenty of people who do know Hebrew and do know all of the texts and can sing a niggin. and I won't say the fourth category, but I'll say that the idea is that the good news in the world of prayer is that you don't have to know Hebrew to have a prayer. Right? You do have to know some Hebrew to understand some of the words of the poetry that are running through the endless word barrage of Jewish life. You know, Jews love words and they're so verbal. But in the end, the hope is that all of those words don't actually get in the way of our prayers. Right? And so because the prayers as they emerge from the tears and the sadness of our being, and as they emerge from the deep joys and happiness and elation of being alive, those are our prayers, and they don't come out in Hebrew. They come out like a volcano of feeling, right? And then the volcano, it slowly trickles down the side of the mountain, and over the generations, it turns to rock. You know, it's like, and things get hardened into a machzor, or into a sidur, a prayer book. Okay, but the original fountain of prayer is just an eruption, and it's full of beauty and expression, and we all have that, right? And it doesn't come out in language; it comes out in pure expression. Sometimes it doesn't even come out in song. It comes out just in the thought and the meditation, just the reflection and the feeling, right? And those aren't in language. They're sometimes in images. And, you know, so I think for me, the nigun gives permission to that. It says like, look, I went to a university and I spent a lot of time training my mind. And also, the world of prayer goes beyond the world of the mind. And so, you know, indeed, it's like in the Hasidic world and in many, and in the mystical worlds of Jewish thinking, the mind is only the beginning of faith. It's only the beginning of emunah. And they say that there's 3 levels of emunah. And the first one is what is your mind. It's what you can think of. Right? And the second level is your heart. It's like when you feel something, you feel the power and the truth of something. Okay? But the third level is the level of it being in your bones. Okay? And you're just vibrating with the truth of that thing. Okay? Literally vibrating. And that's like the line that we sing in the Nishmat, at the end of Nishmat Kochai from the Psalms, Kol atzmotai tomar na. That all the bones, all the essence of my being is calling out, right? And so, but in the end, all of those are helpful. You know, we don't want to set the mind aside either. So, okay, so but also if you look back, what it's saying is there's this lifting quality of the nigun, and it lifts us up. I like how you said that, Barry. It lifts us up. And that's building on the idea of the ladder of the angelic ladder that Jacob dreams about. And he puts his head down on a rock in the Torah, and he dreams of a ladder, a sulam, which in modern Hebrew is also the word for musical scale. And the angels are going up and down the ladder, and the angels are the musical notes that connect the heavens with the earth. Right? Even Rambam, who forbade music altogether. That's Maimonides. He said, music is verboten. You know, because he spoke German. He said, he didn't. He wouldn't allow music because of mourning for the temple. Okay, but even he said that whenever we're talking about angels, we're talking about the essential forces of humanity that is basically singing to God. Okay, and he, as a doctor in the 13th century, would occasionally even go against his own prohibition, and he'd say, "Look, if nothing else works, you got to go listen to some music." Okay. Can somebody else volunteer from who might have looked at a different section, like section 2, 3, or 4? And raise your hand so we can see you. Yeah, was that Julian? Just unmute yourself.
So we looked at the section, and I have to get it back up, a story about David digging and throwing out something and doing something wrong. And and you know, it does have sort of the feel of the high holiday services, which you described, the sadness. And you needed song to get back to the good place. And there is a lot of that in the high holidays. I think a group I was with was of that opinion.
It's beautiful. Do you mind if I just tell the story out loud?
Please do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because this is one of my favorite stories. It's a story from the Talmud that I first learned from Rabbi Aviva Richman at Hadar, who's taught me a lot of great Torah. And the story goes like this, that David the king was preparing to build the temple, right? And he didn't get very far. He died, but years later, his son Solomon finished it. Okay, but David's job was to identify the spot where the temple should be built and lay the cornerstone. Okay, and so the temple couldn't just be built anywhere. It had to be built in the most powerful spot on earth. Okay, it had to be built in the place where the original chaos of the earth, called the Tehom, was brought into the earth and controlled during the initial parts of creation. Okay, so because the whole world was tohu vavohu, was chaos, and then it got contained inside the earth. Okay, so that's the Tehom. It's this primordial stew, this chaos that's contained in the world. Okay, on the inside of the earth. So David knew that he had to build the temple on the mouth of the earth, where the earth would open if the Tehom was to come out. Okay, but anyway, he digs down to build the foundations. He digs down 100 cubits, 200 cubits, 300 cubits, 400 cubits, 1,500 cubits. He digs down, and then he gets to a teapot.
Oh, that's the teapot.
And the teapot looks up at the king and says, "King, I recommend that you don't move me." And the king says, "But I'm David the king. Who are you to tell me what to do?" And the teapot says, "Still, I recommend that you don't move me." And the king says, "Well, I'm David the king." And he grabs the teapot and chucks it. Okay, and immediately upon the removal of this teapot, the entire earth starts to tremble, and the Tehom starts to rise, and it comes up 100 cubits, it comes up 300 cubits, it comes up 700 cubits, it comes up almost 1,500 cubits, and it's about to threaten to overwhelm the entire world and to create a gigantic mabul, a flood of chaos that overwhelms the world. And David is panicking, and what does he do? He starts to sing, because that's what he knew how to do. He was the author of the Psalms. He knew how to compose and to sing. He was Yodea Nigun, and he sings. He was called the Ne'im Zmirot Yisrael, the sweet singer of Israel. He starts to sing 15 psalms that he was inventing on the spot, and each one started Shir Hamalot. Okay, just like we sing in. Just like we were singing before, One of them is Mimam Akim. Okay, and for every and there are 15 psalms today that start with Shir Hamalot, and he composed them right then. And for each one he composed, the Tehom went back down to its base. And as soon as it got all the way down, he grabbed the teapot and put it back on and said, "Phew." Okay, so pretty good story, but not good enough to satisfy the sages who said, wait a second. They said, why is it called Shir HaMa'alot, the song of rising, of ascending, if when he sang it, it made the Tehom go down? And so he had to answer this. So the Talmud, in a different place, tells the story the opposite way. It says like this. He started digging. See if you can guess what's going to happen. And within just a tiny dig, he comes to a teapot. Okay, he hadn't gone very far at all. And the teapot says, don't move me, and he throws it. And immediately the Tehom starts to go down. Okay, and the Tehom goes down 100 cubits, 200 cubits. The Tehom is going downwards. And what happens when the Tehom goes down too far? Well, the earth starts to shrivel up and it loses all of its juice. And it becomes just a dry, thirsty, drought version of what it had been before. Okay, it loses all of its energy. Okay, and so same thing happens. He quickly composes his psalms, his Shir Hamalot, 15 of them, and he brings it back up, and then he puts the teapot back on, and he plants the cornerstone right there, and that's where the temple was. He said, let's never move that thing again. So, I'm just gonna agree with you, Julianne, that to my mind, and what I learned from Rabbi Aviva Richman at Hadar was that this is not only a story of Tehom going up and down, it's also a story of what's going on inside each of us, right? Which is what I think Julian was alluding to. That if sometimes, I don't know if you all feel this, but I do, that I have like a little switch inside of myself. It's very tiny and it's kind of small, but if you turn it just a tiny bit, I can become angry, or I can let loose the flood of self that goes out and oversteps its welcome in the world. It kind of floods the world in a bad way, right? And I need the song to bring myself back into like a place of humility and good balance. Okay. And then the other thing is also true, which is if you turn it the other way, you can actually shrink yourself to an extent that all your creative juice gets dried up, and you actually lose your ability to connect with the world, and you kind of wither away, right? And for that same situation, you also need the song, because the song reminds us of our humanity, and it allows us to come back into being with each other and with ourselves. Is that making sense?
Thank you. That was so good.
So I think we're going to stop there with the text study. But I just want to say, like, I left you a whole bunch of texts to look at if you would like to continue studying, and you can, my ideal version of this would be that you all feel excited to study music with Liz and with each other. And maybe you'll start a rising song study circle in your community where you all get together to study music now during COVID, but eventually to make music together as COVID comes to a close. And I want to help you all do that. And so there are 500 videos on joeyweisenberg.com that teach lots of melodies and teach lots of stories about melodies and teach all the davening. So if you want to learn how to lead any part of traditional services, you can learn how to do it. And Liz has the information and can send that to you all when this is over. But I just want to invite you all to join me and the Rising Song Institute. I would love to have a cohort from your community that continues to do this work, because I know that I can't do the work on my own, right? I know that we all have to get into this game of making music and making prayer, and kind of releasing those forces so that we can bring each other back to life, you know, especially after COVID, and during it.
Yes, I just put in the chat some links to some special pages set up just for us related to perhaps a musical cohort that we can hopefully create here in the community. I've been in touch with some people already, and I would love if people who are in this workshop with Joey to, you know, to explore it more. Rachel, I see you have your hand raised.
I forgot to unraise it. That was from a while ago about the sharing about the text study. That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay. That's fine.
Florence, you have your actual hand raised. Yes. Oops.
Just unmute yourself, please, Florence.
Oh no, you're still muted.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Before we leave, Joey, I mean, you've been very inspirational tonight. Can you leave us with a nigun that can carry us out from this wonderful feeling that we have now?
Yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to ask. I think that just want to thank you, Joey, so much. It's really put me in a wonderful spiritual mental space as we're heading into these final few weeks before the holidays. We go up, we go down to go up, and you're helping us in all of our directions of internal searching and external connection. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And again, thank you to the generous sponsor who made this possible.
Amen. Yeah, and thank you all for showing up tonight to be with each other, and you know, to learn something or just be a part of the learning. And I'm just gonna play the song that we started with, and the Yalla. If you want the words there at the beginning of the packet, and if you don't want the words, you don't need them, because the nigun is just as good. Okay. Di da da, di da da, do, 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 da. I la lo, ah, la lo, lo. Yo, I lo, yo, I lo. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to getting to sing in person with you all down the line, and hopefully to being able to connect with you in a Rising Song Circle. And thank you so much to the shul and to Liz Berke for putting this all together. And I appreciate it.
Manitoba.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, healthy, sweet, beautiful new year for you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming all this way.
Thank you. I'm going to stick around in case anybody has more questions, but it's officially finished.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Inspirational.
Anybody waiting part of my Elul evening group, I will start it in a few minutes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Do you remember?
So I noticed one of the singers in your video,
Yeah.
Joey. I noticed one of the